Alright, welcome back to a Duel Links video. Last time I made one of these was like 6 months ago or something. I am planning on incorporating Duel Links replays in addition to the normal replays whenever I feel like it. I'm not setting a schedule. Anyways, enough to clutter out this opening. This deck right here is a Sacred Phoenix, like Dark Coffin deck. What I really liked back in the old days of Yu-Gi-Oh! When Sacred Phoenix first came out is there was this one video game I played where it was a Sacred Phoenix deck, and they would always just set Dark Coffins and bring it out and, wipe the field with it. And I always really liked that, and in Duel Links, this is like one of the few places where that deck could be viable again. So I built this one. It's trying to use Sacred Phoenix to break some Dark Coffins. That way you can either discard a card from your opponent's hand or send a monster on the field to the graveyard. Your opponent gets to choose the effect, though. And I like Dark Coffin over cards like Twister, I think it's called. It's another card that can be destroyed for an effect on the field. And that one, if it's destroyed, you can destroy a monster. But with Dark Coffin, I found it's better because I was running into stall decks. And being able to hit cards in their hand really helped. Not that I don't think there's any stall decks like in this particular video. But that's why I was using Dark Coffin over some of the other alternatives to it. And I also know that there is a Yubel version of this deck that's much better and actually meta. I didn't want to use that, though. I want to use Sacred Phoenix with Dark Coffin, and the entire deck revolves around that. Okay, final thoughts on this deck. The skill I used for it, Field Exchange, I don't think it was very appropriate. Basically, if my life points are below 3,000, I can return the field spell card from my hand to the deck in order to draw a card. I did use the effect a couple of times, and it did help, but I don't really know if that was the best choice. There's also a skill that Ophion can use, where it like sets a card on the field which can be destroyed with Phoenix for a token. I didn't think that was very good either, because that card is generally not very good and destroy your own spell and trap card decks. And I thought sometimes Fire King Island is a dead draw in hand when I was playing my yugioh decks, and that didn't really be a case. That wasn't really a case with this deck. Fire King Island, I kind of used it in my hand every time I had the chance, except for the few times I used it for Field Exchange and then actually drew a good card off of it. So it worked, but I feel like there's a better skill that can be used for it, besides like Switcheroo, because that one's just good in pretty much all decks. And I don't know, if you have any suggestions for a better skill for this, I'd love to hear it, because this one worked fine, but it's definitely not the best one. As for other cards, the reason I'm running like Bacon Saver, Card Trooper, and Treeborn Frog, despite them not really fitting the theme of the deck super well, is for targets to be destroyed with Fire King Island, and because they have graveyard effects, or Card Trooper both has the effect where if it's destroyed you get to draw a card, and it can also mill cards to the graveyard to potentially send Treeborn or Bacon Saver. It worked. It wasn't probably the best thing in the world. I could have easily replaced it with other staple cards. I was just trying it out. It seemed to work fine, but definitely they could be replaced with other things. These are like tech options. The other cards, though, they're all kind of key to it. Sacred Phoenix, you'd need 3 of them. You'd need 3 Yakasha. Even other Fire Kings would work well. I have had problems in the past with yugioh decks where I just straight up ran out of Fire Kings to search with Fire King Island. That's why I thought Field Exchange would be more live. But that wasn't really a case for this deck since it focused a lot more in Sacred Phoenix. Thankfully. I also just ran 1 Fire Monarch because I was running Treeborn Frog and Soul Exchange. I thought if I had Fire Monarch in my hand, he would be live because I had ways to bring him out. And that turned out to be the case, but it was ultimately a tech option that can be replaced with anything else. He wasn't needed to the deck. I was just really over-preparing for running against stall decks. That's why I'm only running Dark Coffin and nothing else. But I don't think I actually ran into him, after I made changes to the deck to keep stall decks in mind. Also, this deck is built to play around the Gold League. I think that's what it's called, Gold. Because they were all my matches were played in competitive, but only like in the Gold rank. Because that's the rank you can play gimmick decks in, which is what this deck falls under. And expect to actually win. So because of that, I wasn't really planning on facing anything good. And I did run into a lot of stall decks, which I don't think turned out being in the video. So the Firestorm Monarch was kind of in there for that, to hit their hand even more. Wasn't really needed. He didn't also brick me either, but that was more due to luck than it was a good deck building option. And Hand of Nephthys, I'm sure I could pronounce that if I tried it off camera and practiced a couple times and came back, but I'm not going to do that. This card with Soul Exchange was great. Worked out really well. There is a spell card that allows you to search out Sacred Phoenix, like specifically for Duel Links because your starting life points is 4,000. I don't really like it. It's always a dead draw if you draw it later, whereas this one can at least, still be used with Soul Exchange or just to tribute a Treeborn Frog. It worked well. And that's about all I can say about it. I didn't really want to use it. It's not a very good card. It does allow you Sacred Phoenix, but it's also not a very good card either. And I don't know. I don't know why it worked out so well. Like, I was expecting to drop all of them. I did originally run 3 of them, but then here's this thing with the Duel Links where every time I include 3 of a tech option, I would always draw all 3 of them. it would just completely brick my hand. It was really annoying. That's why I'm only running 2. This card, the Hand of something I can't pronounce, and only 2 Soul Exchanges, and only 2 Dark Coffins, even though the whole deck revolves around it. Because when I was running 3 of them, I kept drawing all 3. There was one duel where I drew all 3 Soul Exchanges, and then all my Fire King Islands, and then like all my Dark Coffins, and not a single monster card. It was really annoying. And I found out if I just run 2 of them, 2 of the non-important cards, I was having a lot more success with my opening hands. Even though I still ran 3 of all of the super important cards. That's why there's 3 Phoenixes, 3 Fire King Islands, and 3 Yakshas. Everything else is a little bit more flexible, though. So the cards I'm running 2 of were cards I thought were important to the deck, but not as important as the playmakers. And everything else that's run at 1, those are just kind of tech options that can be replaced with other things. Overall, I'm surprised the deck worked as well as it did, and I'm happy with it. I just wish I knew of a better skill to use with it.